Nigeria-Turkey signed 8 bilateral agreements. African Development Bank pledges to support Nigeria in tackling food insecurity. Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority to decommission 7,012 masts over debt. Central Bank of Nigeria introduces 500 million grant for graduates and undergraduates. Plus, Asia-Pacific stocks struggle for direction. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA. We are reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar. Now let's bring you up to speed with business development. Nigeria and the Republic of Turkey have resolved to deepen and expand the long-lasting relations between the two countries in various fields for enhanced benefits for their people and economies. This came to light after the high-level bilateral engagement between President Muhammadu Buhari and the Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Abuja.
We have agreed that implementation is to commence immediately, aimed at strengthening this cordial relationship between Nigeria and Turkey. In the course of our discussions, we also reviewed the travel ban list based on the revised COVID-19 protocols and removed Turkey from Nigeria's travel ban list.
Nigeria holds the manufacturing position of the entire continent, and our trade volume between the two nations reached $2 billion last year. Thus, Nigeria became our most outstanding and the biggest trade partner in the sub-Saharan Africa.
Meanwhile, 7 major agreements and memoranda of understanding have been signed between Nigeria and the Republic of Turkey. These are in the areas of energy, defense, industry, mining, and hydrocarbons. The agreement signing ceremony was the high point of the 2-day visit to Nigeria by the Turkish leader.
Already we export like 1 billion scoff of gas to Turkey every year. They want to increase that. Also, we are trying to sign a government-to-government agreement with them to supply them 15,000 barrels of crude oil every day. So they are really looking to Nigeria for their energy requirements.
The one that affects my ministry is the one to deal with renewable energy, which Turkey government has excelled in that field. So, and as you know, it is the way to go. We want to diversify and move more to the renewable energy, that is the solar, the hydro, and things like that. It is not only Turkey that is going to help us along. They are also looking for areas we can assist them.
The federal government is reassuring of equity in the distribution of infrastructural facilities and social amenities across the country. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, gave the indication at the 2-day workshop on integrating strategic partnership with critical stakeholders and advocacy on balanced development organized by Federal Character Commission in Abuja.
After these deliberations, move to action and commence in earnest the monitoring of projects across all sectors in order to ensure fairness in the distribution.
The workshop will endeavor to bring into discourse as central terms the cardinal ideas of representative democracy, balancing development, equitable deliberations, and opportunities structural balance.
In putting the framework for the actualization of the tenet of the spread of infrastructure, the Commission will soon commence a nationwide infrastructure audit for all ongoing and abandoned projects.
Now, the Senate Committee on Science and Technology has urged the Nigerian Building and Research Institute to channel its 2022 budget to check in recurring cases of building collapse in Nigeria. This was part of the committee's recommendations when the institute defended its 2022 budget proposal at the National Assembly.
What is killing our road is that most of our designs and the load is not based on the design. The design loads are so high that it is not be able to carry the load like a very big truck that is coming up.
Request you to do more research and development that will ensure more affordable, durable housing, eradicate man-made factors of building collapses such as the one recorded on Monday, 18th October 2021 in Lagos.
To see that we get good quality, very cheap feeder roads so that we can try to move away from these expensive asphalt roads.
The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has again threatened to decommission telecommunication masts belonging to operators that are indebted to the regulatory body. Was he to be Globacom Nigeria Limited, whose alleged debt of 5.96 billion naira has put its 7,012 masts nationwide at risk. The apex regulatory body for aviation had in 2019 issued a similar threat to decommission unlicensed telecom masts belonging to service providers, banks and financial institutions. By law, the regulatory authority requires an aviation height clearance approval for every tower installation in the country, irrespective of the height and location. Electricity distribution companies say a total of 97 billion naira was lost in the first quarter of this year to energy theft, capping of estimated billing and other factors. The Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, the umbrella body for 10 of the 11 discos in the country, said the amount lost by the power firms rose by 12.79% in the first quarter of 2021 from 86 billion naira in the fourth quarter of 2020. It said 23.24% of the 7,880 gigawatt hours received by the discos were lost to energy theft and others. According to the association, the revenue collected by power distribution companies rose by 42.3% in the first quarter of this year compared to the same period of 2020, buoyed by the hike in electricity tariff. The revenue collection increased to 181 billion naira in the first quarter of 2021 from 127 billion naira in the first quarter of 2020. The group said the discourse overall aggregates technical, commercial and collection loss had continued to deteriorate as it rose to 50.3% in March this year from 48.5% at the end of last year. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture is advocating for more investment in the agricultural sector to further push the diversification policy of the federal government. Minister of State for Agriculture and Rural Development, Mustafa Baba Shahiru, solicited for more financial support to upscale the massive investment in the agricultural sector. He said agriculture, being the focus of government's diversification agenda, deserves a better agro-financing to provide credit facilities to support the sector's value chain activities. The minister emphasized that Nigeria remains a global player in agricultural export. He said in the year 2019, Nigeria exported sesame seeds oil worth 77.04 billion naira, cocoa 66.73 billion naira, cashew nuts 45.6 billion naira, frozen shrimps and prawns 7.46 billion naira, and ginger 3.34 billion naira.
Proposed solution to challenges of Nigeria's agricultural commodities, rejection by European Union. The discussion should revolve around possible ways to improve global acceptance of the agricultural commodities for export without fear of rejection by international communities. This is important for our export drive and economic diversification.
Nigeria has produced and released a new maize variety which is expected to increase national production of the produce. The federal government has granted environmental approval for evaluation and open cultivation of a new maize variety known as telomaize, developed by researchers at the Institute of Agricultural Research, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria. The Executive Director, Institute for Agricultural Research, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, Professor Ishaku Muhammad, said the new maize variety, resistant of pests, will save the country about 268 billion naira. The country annually spent on importation of insecticides to spray the farm produce against a pest that destroys and responsible for the low productivity or yield. The new variety also has the capacity to bridge the gap that exists in the nation's maize demand deficit, which stands at 4 million tons.
To start working with this improved maize that I'm holding with my hand, and they are going to see the result in their pocket, which means money is going to flow into their pocket.
We are able to produce this in our country. That's what we're talking about, technology domestication. We should get the technology and then domesticate, and then use it to actually enhance, improve our crops, our indigenous crops. And maize is one of those indigenous crops. Maize is eaten in every household.
Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development Mohammed Mahmoud Abubakar said the government will invest more on technology development that will improve agricultural activities in the country.
The upcoming NAPTIP is developed to provide an integrated approach to agricultural development in terms of access and application of improved inputs, linkages between agricultural research and training institutions, input provision for farmers, agricultural mechanization, extension services, provision of rural infrastructure, access to affordable funding, climate change management, and suitable agriculture, nutrition, and finally, security of agricultural land and investment.
Now to discuss issues around telomaize and its economic potential for Nigeria as the country coordinator, Open Forum for Agricultural Biotechnology, Dr. Rose Maxwell Gidado. She joins us via telephone from Yola in Adamawa State. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, let's begin our conversation by asking you this. What is the difference between the telomaize and other varieties of rice? Maize. Sorry, maize.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The difference between telomaize and other varieties of maize is, of course, the protection that the telomaize has. Of course, on protection, against insects. Insects like the fall armyworm and the stem borer worm. The telomaize is already protected. Insects do not affect it. Fall armyworm and the stem borer do not affect the telomaize. And presently, Nigeria actually cultivates maize on 12 million hectares, of land. Of land, and then we spend 268 billion naira on chemicals to control these insects like the fall armyworm and the stem borer. And the coming of Tela, of course, will save Nigeria 268 billion naira that is being spent on chemical to control these insects that actually ravage maize, and then makes farmers to lose 80% of what they produce. So as a result of this yield increase, and then there's yield increase, advantage of yield increase, of course, and you no longer spend so much money, of course, to control those insects. The protection is already inbuilt into the teller maize. So as a result of this yield increase, 16 to 20% yield increase is being realized, and only if 10% of these 12 million hectares of land is actually allocated to cultivate teller maize in Nigeria, we are going to be making savings, of 3.5 billion naira for Nigeria. So the more profits gain, you can see that will be actually, committed to teller. Once we use teller, there's more profit gain, and then the more profit gain for the country, and then more growth.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you are telling us this is good news for maize farmers and those on the value chain. How can the maize? How can it improve the country's economy?
Yeah, of course, once that savings, that cost savings of 268 billion, you can imagine, that is what is being sent to purchase chemicals that can control those insects. So that is quite, a large amount. And then this yield increase that is bringing about 3.5 billion naira for the country is addition to the GDP growth, agricultural contribution, the GDP growth that will actually come as a result, of agricultural contribution to the GDP will be high. And then farmers also will be excited, they'll be empowered, they will have more money, make more profits, and then their livelihood will be enhanced. And of course, Nigeria will be in for it. Food security enhancement is there. So we have a lot of advantages. We cannot even quantify the monetary value of a health benefit.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about the availability of the seed in other African countries. Will it also be how do you plan to? How will it be available to farmers out there?
Yeah, we will make more seeds. More seeds will be produced, and we will ensure that farmers have access. We have seed companies, indigenous seed companies in Nigeria. Of course, they would be the ones, the custodians of these seeds. They will produce the seeds, and then they will distribute. They will be in charge of seed distribution to farmers, and then every year, and so on and so forth. And then, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And so we will ensure other African countries are also into the teller maize cultivation. It's not only Nigeria. Uganda is part of it.
Okay.
Uganda, Kenya, and then by 2023, of course, the seeds will be available. For now, the teller maize has just been deregulated by the National Biosafety Management Agency, ensuring that the genes of insects are very, very safe for human consumption, safe to the environment, safe for animal feed. And so now, establishment of demonstration plots, of course, will be done on farmers' field for possible adoption by farmers. Farmers are practical people. Before they take what you've given them, they have to ensure that what you have given them is better than what they have. And once that proof of concept is done, by the farmers, of course, we are good to go. The next stage, it will be the varietal release committee that will sit on that, and then they will approve it, and it will be, accepted into the Nigerian seed sector, and then we'll be good to go. So in about, I think, a year or two, the seeds will be made accessible after, the varietal release approval, of course.
How much will Nigeria save from this new variety?
Nigeria is going to save, like I told you before, we are saving 268 billion naira. We're saving. That's what we're saving. And then we're also making a gain from the yield increase of 3.5 billion naira. That is quite a lot. And then food will be available. And you know that maize is eaten, is a staple eaten in every household in Nigeria. It's also used by the food industries, by the pharmaceutical industries as a stabilizing agent, because it's very rich in starch. And then for condiments and all, it's quite very useful, and used by almost every household.
Okay,
And
thank you
so,
very much, Dr. Rose Maxwell Gidato. Thank you very much for coming. For your participation in the program.
thank you so much for making me part of this. I appreciate it.
Now moving on, the National Emergency Management Agency has distributed farming inputs to more than 7,000 farmers in Zamfara State under the federal government Emergency Agricultural Intervention Fund. The intervention fund is part of measures to avert food crisis as a result of insecurity and floods that wreaked havoc on some farming communities across the state.
Farmers, 7,146 of them, spread across all the 40 local governments of the first state, are going to enjoy or benefit from this farm input.
We already have the list of those that are eligible to benefit from it. We're going across the 14 LGAs.
Now next is our Surviving COVID-19 series as put together by Leah Katumbabatunde.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
I run two types of business. That's Nenat Affordables, Nenat Cakes and more. Nenat Affordable, I sell waste. As a graduate, I went to University of Jos. What I read was botany. But you wonder why I'm doing with cake. A lot of people wonder. I mean, I'm fully into business. You wonder why is a botany fully into it? This I had passion for it. Just before the lockdown, this SME, even like in my church, they said there was going to be training. Some of us we gave our names. We even went for the training. We did 1 week training. Smith and trained us. I was a participant. I got trained, we finished our training, we even issued certificates, we're even in the process of applying for loan because they say we have to write a business proposal. Mainly what I went for the training was actually for my Nena cakes and more. That was what I really wanted to get loan for, so that I boost it, I open a bakery, which will help me which the main aim of that Smedan training was that we'll be able to grow in our business and it will make us be able to employ other people so that it will create employment opportunity. So as we finished the training in the process, then we were in the process to apply for the loan. Then the lockdown came, and since then I was not able to do anything again. During that time, during the peak of it, no, people were not going anywhere. Okay, like to talk of clothes, that period, nobody was buying clothes. So that was the time mostly you started using all these dispatch riders. You know, instead of you to stress yourself to do deliveries, we've now had these riders that they do deliveries for us easily. And then you have to do more adverts. And then since then, as long as I was not really traveling to go and buy things, I started making some of this more of these are ready to wear. This is using our own local fabrics. So the only thing is that I want Nigerians that we should patronize more of our ready to wears.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Shares in Asia Pacific were mixed on Thursday trade.
Markets have had to confront several challenges in recent months, ranging from concerns over the Delta COVID surge and supply chain disruptions to the Federal Reserve signaling the removal of stimulus and surging inflation reports. European stocks retreated on Thursday as concerns about the Chinese property sector returned to the fore, while investors almost monitored a slew of corporate earnings. The pan-European stock 600 fell 0.4% in early trade, trade, with basic resources shedding 1.7%. Stocks in Asia Pacific were mixed on Thursday as investors monitored shares of developer China Evergrande Group in Hong Kong. Evergrande shares dropped 12.88%, returning to trade on Thursday after a halt that lasted more than 2 weeks. Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong slipped 0.81%. Mainland Chinese stocks closed mixed, with the Shanghai Composite up 0.22% to 3,594.78, while in Japan, the Nikkei 225 led losses among the region's markets as it slipped 1.87% to close at 28,708.58. Stock futures declined in early trading on Thursday in the United States after the blue chip Dow Jones Industrial Average retook its record high amid solid corporate earnings. Dow futures fell 103 points. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures both traded in negative territory. African markets are still on the negative territory, with South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 and Namibia's overall index on the low, while others are still maintaining previous figures. Boss said they able. Business Express.
Well, that's it. Business Express returns tomorrow at 3 p.m. Thanks for watching.